I'm Jane Donovan. Come and join me on my new show, The Park Bench, where we discuss, share points of view, wisdom and advice on all the hottest topics being pondered in today's world. This is a show by all of us, for we the people, where you get to have your say on what really matters to you. Together, let's co-create to get the conversations happening right here on the Park Bench. My question to ponder today on the Park Bench is, what is the biggest surprise that 2020 delivered? I don't think there's anybody who didn't find the year 2020 to be one of great change, be it personally or globally, so I was curious to hear different perspectives on what people felt was the most surprising thing they'd experienced or observed or learnt during this interesting time. And once again, we're joined by people from all over the world with the intention to bring as many different answers to this question as possible. For me, I feel there were so many surprises, some great and some not so great. However, probably the biggest surprise for me was the depth of darkness on the planet. I'm not a fan of going into the darkness and adding to the fear. However, I also deeply believe that it's the job of the sensitives, the wayseers, the visionaries, the sociologists, the intuitives, the humanitarians, and the restoration team to be shining the light on the dark. We can transmute anything and everything with awareness. And so I share my biggest surprise with the purest of intentions coming from love to place light into and onto the dark so change can occur. Prayers up. As someone who has explored and connected to the spiritual world for many decades, I was always aware of dark energy, dark forces, dark entities, and dark agendas. However, what I was and continue to be shocked by is the depths of the darkness. I had no idea how prominent it is, how well organized, how huge the hierarchy is, and how intricate and planned the agendas are. And I had no idea how many people participate in the worshipping of Satan or Moloch or Baal or the devil or whatever you want to call the dark, the different overlords, whatever. I also had no idea how common the practice of satanic rituals and ritual abuse is. 2020 was the year I joined a lot of dots. Memories started resurfacing of the Adelaide family pedophile ring stories from the 1980s, which included a time where I witnessed a murder tied into this evil so-called family. Memories surfaced from clients who over the years had shared stories with me of growing up in cults, being abused within the system, sexual and ritual abuse by the church, and childhood sexual assault and prostitution. It was like a computer went off in my brain scanning all I had heard, learnt, experienced and observed over the years, and it all fell into one great big story of evil. And in that moment, I knew it was all true, and that we were indeed living amongst a huge global satanic empire. So for me, that was the biggest shock that 2020 delivered. Before we move on to hearing from our guests today, I want to add that while this is possibly a shock for others listening, I wish to firmly share that the dark cannot exist when an opposing force is applied to it. Just like common law, common is what exists as a way of being until an opposing situation is placed to challenge what is common. We are magnificently powerful and we're growing in this awareness every day, and we can and are indeed transmuting the dark to light. So be bold in your knowings and know that together we really are co-creating a wonderful new way of being, one that is full of love, truth, transparency, integrity, and kindness. So now, let's have a listen to our guests who shared their stories on what was the biggest surprise 2020 delivered for them.
This is Dr. Vertice, your host of Life 101, produced by LifeSource Global. The biggest surprise for me in 2020 was watching in real time how the masses worldwide, and this was global, how they acquiesced and became complicit in their own subjugation, and how they gave their rights and freedoms away without a whimper or a whisper, blindly believing in the lies of the people in power when they said, oh, this will just be for a few weeks. And I'm literally like telling everybody, come on, when you give your freedoms away, they're not going to give them back. They have already announced what their plan is. They've been working on this plan for as long as I can remember, and I've been trying to warn people for as long as I can remember. And when nothing worked, that was very shocking for me and very disheartening and very sad. And even the ones that held out, till late in 2020 or early 2021, by the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, I think especially the young people had gone stir crazy with the lockdown, and many of those that had held out said, oh, well, let me just go along to get along because I want to travel, I want to do this, and I want to do that. And the ground that I thought I had gained with a lot of people was gone. And it was a difficult time because for the first time I couldn't travel, and I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to sit still. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to watch this unfold because this is certainly not a surprise. I had read the Rockefeller Lockstep document, it's called Future Scenarios. They had published it on the Rockefeller website in 2010, and I started sending the document to people in early 2020 and showing them that this was all planned. But the hysteria was so massive that even sending them the information, they couldn't even allow themselves to read it, to get through it, and to wrap their heads around the massiveness of what was going on and the reality. So I understand how shocking it was for people, but none of this should have been surprising because the cabal are very consistent, they're very persistent, and they're very cohesive. They work very, very well together, whereas the masses don't, and that's how we got to where we are today.
I'm Julia, and I'm from South Australia, and I live in a little town in the Barossa with 3 children. Well, that's interesting. I stopped being as nice as I have always been in certain, and when I say nice, I don't mean, I'll have to clarify. I've stood up more and voiced my views more because this is really important stuff that's come up, and things that I just used to think, oh, well, this is the way I do it, da 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 da, and everyone's entitled to the way they do it. I still feel that, but with a bit of research I've done, I know some important things. And for instance, my partner ought to know certain things because he's my partner and he's the father of my kids. So even if he didn't want to know, he will know. And that's been a really big surprise, that I've been able to stand up and be respectful of my views as well as my partner's. And he hasn't maybe really, he probably wasn't quite prepared for me being so feisty. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Peter, and I'm from Canberra. Yeah, this is so many surprises, not surprisingly. So many surprises, initially 2020, and of course, we're talking about COVID and lockdowns and all that sort of stuff. The first lockdown was exactly what I needed. personally was just what I needed. I was really struggling towards the end of 2019. As you know, I've got a very big family of 5 kids. It's a blended family. It's a family, I parent between Sydney and Canberra. I have kids with disability as well. So, and work full time in the mental health sector. So I was struggling, because there was just no time to myself, and I'm just running everywhere the whole time. That was exactly what I needed. It really was. And I was lucky to, and I struggle to remember all the detail, but I was lucky to have my whole family in Canberra. I also had he's 18 now, so he must have been 16 then. My 16-year-old son's girlfriend was with us as well. So we had, how many people we have? 8 in the house. And we've got a 4-bedroom house. It's not a big house, but around every corner there was someone on a computer, doing schoolwork or work or that sort of thing. So, look, it was a thing I needed. But as time went on, that kind of changed, which probably wouldn't surprise everyone. And I think the biggest surprise I really found during that whole time was just how the either-or discussions became, how black and white discussions became. And so there was really no middle ground on things. If you believed in something, it was almost like you took on everything else. And this is perpetuated through social media. And it's easy to blame social media, but it's us doing it. It's you doing it, it's me doing it, it's our best friend doing it. We're the ones who are doing this kind of black and white thinking. But it became a pandemic. There's almost no discussion now that you aren't forced to one side or the other side. And so during the pandemic, I might have been, bitterly disappointed, bitterly critical of our state government, because at some stage I was prevented from parenting my children in Sydney, because we're in lockdown and all that sort of stuff. But I couldn't make that comment without that taking on a whole lot of other meanings and things that people wanted to put on top of it. So that meant I was anti this and anti that and for this and for that. And it was like, no, I'm not. I'm just critical of that decision, and I'm not sure we're taking into account, the mental health of the kids here. So that was a big thing. It was a really disappointing thing, and I actually haven't seen it abate at all. It's still a thing these days. So almost every topic we could talk about, it's you're this side or that side, and it's not how I grew up. It's not what I like. I don't like that. So I think that was my biggest surprise during that whole year. It was almost like we forgot how to be adults, I think. We were kind of driven back to really juvenile behaviours. That was my biggest surprise, disappointing surprise for 2020. But there we go.
Hi, it's Adam from Mount Barker in South Australia, 46 and fabulous. The out and out laying out of a sequence of lies, untruths, and misinformation that put everybody into a place of fear, which stems from the unknown. And I believe that was the biggest surprise for me, because I wasn't fully aware of all the untruths and misleadings that are out there until 2020. It was very eye-opening.
Hi, I'm Teresa and I'm from Adelaide. February 2020, I went to Singapore with Luther, my now fiance, and I got to meet his family, which was absolutely awesome. So that was the very first time I met them. And that was a very special gift. And then we came back in March, and my son got married. And the week after he got married, lockdown happened, and the world just changed. For me, I didn't know what it would hold, but it actually held a lot of gifts. I found 2020, it wasn't all negative. And I found that because life sort of stopped, we had to actually recalibrate our lives, which is not a bad thing, because it actually makes you think about what is actually really important in life. So I like to see 2020 as a big reset year, where we've had to change our thinking a lot, and recognise what is valuable in life. So that for me was a huge shift. And for me to actually look at myself, and it was a huge change in that it helped me to understand so much more than I actually realised, because sometimes we just get so busy in life that we don't actually we don't know who we are. So 2020 was a year of great transformation for me, and to understand who I was, and find Teresa, which to me is the best gift that I could give myself, because the greatest journey we can undertake in life is the journey of self-discovery, and to be able to discover who we are is certainly a gift, not only to ourselves but to the world.
Hi, I'm Lane from LifeSource, and I co-host Talking Galactic with my mom, Joyce Keller, and FDA Not Approved with Terry Lynn. I'm sorry to say it's not a happy one. I was floored by how easily the population capitulated to communistic/socialistic tactics. I was very, very surprised that freedoms were so easily given up. I mean, we had seen it during 9/11. We saw everyone capitulate to fear. Save us, take away my freedom. But I thought we had grown up a bit since then. So sad to say, I'm pretty sure that's my biggest surprise. So in 2020, I had moved to California, San Diego. And because I insist on living on the ocean, which I couldn't afford, I got an apartment that would need roommates. So I went through a few roommates who were not energetically aligned. And then a father and his son moved in who were energetically aligned. In fact, they were awake, if you'll go with that term, which basically means they understand the underpinnings of this world and the manipulations that are going on. And we had a commonality there, and we could talk openly. The roommates previously, I'd have to kind of whisper, because I needed that their monthly rent. Anyway, so what I learned was you can live somewhat communally with people who live similar lives to you and have similar goals and interests, and they don't impinge upon your living space. I guess what I should have said before moving in is I've lived alone or with a partner for a long time, so I wasn't used to going back to a roommate situation, and I was a little bit nervous about that. How do you go back to basically your 20s where you're sharing a space with somebody that are not necessarily your friends, right? So I learned that it is an entirely pleasant and wonderful experience to be in a situation where you're with like-minded people. And that's when I started to understand the real value of community, because I am such a loner. I'm a writer. So even in my, when I was raising children in a family situation, I'm still a loner in work. So yeah, I really came to understand the value of having people around that are supportive in your ideas and your goals, mutually, giving back and forth to one another. It's pretty awesome.
Hello, my name is Neil. I'm the host of the show and series called Unlocking the Code. I live in the UK, in the northwest of the UK, in a little town called Carlisle, near to the Scottish border. that I'm more than what I am. that I'm just a normal guy, but seem to have a lot of knowledge that I shouldn't have, which came as a big surprise, really. When I went on to I've been on the internet for decades, but never actually realized how much I was actually learning by doing that. And the skills that I have and the skills that I've picked up are now in full force because of 2020, because I was able to step away from work because of my illness. I have a heart condition. So I was unable to go to work, and I was classed as dangerous to me by the medical profession. So I was signed off and didn't go to work for a very long time, and I'm still not back at work. They haven't asked me to go back yet. So I'm just on a very long holiday since 2020. I was signed off on the 24th of March 2020, and I'm still signed off. So the biggest surprise for me was learning about what skills were and how I can actually use them in order to help everyone around the world. Like we're doing with LIFESOURCE, like we're doing with the assemblies, like we're doing with all of the other groups that we're coming together with, and that knowledge and that understanding gives you great confidence to say what you have to say, because you can back it up. You have the knowledge to back it up. You have the ability to find the evidence, and if somebody challenges you, well, that's fair dues, and it's always easy enough to say something, but it's never easy to prove it. So you should never say anything you can't prove.
My name is Larissa, and I migrated from Russia to Australia 28 years ago. And I am accredited energy practitioner and therapist, and I'm running a business named Ascara from down south of Adelaide. When I wake up from that numbness, from the sleepiness of what our society is living and how they're teaching us to live, I knew within my inner intuitive self that we all collectively moving into a very, very deep crisis. I knew that the crisis will come up sooner or later. And I knew that this time is coming faster, because all the indications within our very wisdom energy consciousness system we only don't have the tools how to read these messages. Well, for me, it was easy because I was told within my inner navigation system to be prepared for this time. And I did, even 10 years ago, when I heard the voice within myself saying to buy a lot of land. So this is really something that is preparation for the time of crisis. So we have this concept of wealth, right? Well, a lot of people are very confused about wealth. Money, it doesn't mean wealth. So we have primary wealth that we are now all need to start to concentrate on, because the primary wealth is clean water, land and soil that we can grow food from. There's a connection to nature, the places where we actually can survive. This is our wealth. And money and cash is only a tool how we can obtain this primary wealth. So right now, we all need to start to switch the paradigm of the richness and wellness and wealth into something that we need to survive the crisis, inflation, and all the stuff that is going to be coming very soon. We are already in it, but it's going to be more. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joyce Keller, and my website is my name, joycekeller.com, and I'm a psychic medium, and I'm an author, radio, TV host, and I'm here to serve. And that's why it was called 2020, like clear vision. That's it. What you just said numbers. It's like some sort of a cosmic energy that says 2020, when you go and have your eyes checked, it's supposed to be 2020 for clear vision. So our clear vision of what's going on the planet, as you just very astutely said, Jane, we are able to see the negativity and the darkness that we really had not necessarily seen before that time. And for all of us, it was a great awakening. We started to see the evil that people can force on us, and that the whole mask thing and all of that, the ridiculousness of it, is that a word? I'm not sure. As we look back on it, and we say, this was totally ridiculous. We need 2020 clear vision. And that's really the start of it. It's like saying, please, people, please wake up, pay attention. And that's what that was about. That was the beginning of it. But actually, it started in 2012. But 2020 was everyone's awareness of it and enforcement that really came down as a blow on the planet because we were taking too long. So this was indeed a good thing for the planet ultimately, as it forces us. 2020 forced us out of that mundane way of third-dimensional existence.
Hi, I'm Bev, and I'm from the beautiful Fleurieu Peninsula. The biggest surprise for me was actually somewhat enjoying being in lockdown, because there was very little obligation to be doing the things you'd normally have to do. So I actually found some peace and comfort in the fact that I actually didn't really need to get out of the pajamas, and that I didn't really need to do a lot at all. So I could just focus on myself and my family. I guess probably the way that different countries were handling the lockdowns, and wondering what was true and what wasn't. So not really being sure if what I was hearing or seeing on the news was true. And I really just took it all with a pinch of salt, I think.
Hello, everyone. My name's Nikki. I'm from Ask the Body Kinesiology in South Australia. I have only just recognised that in 2020, when things supposedly fell apart, and they did, I mean, certainly I was witnessing that I launched another aspect of my business very successfully. I sold and purchased a new home. And just establishing that other aspect and arm of my business, plus in my personal life, and I guess it's another part of my business as well, is in entertainment. So a music channel that I was working on went viral, and so that took another whole lease of life. So things actually, while things slowed down, there was a moment where I was able to refine, pause and reconnect with my family, but also, and myself, but also the ability to rebirth and, to refine what it is that how I wanted myself and my focus to be around my working life and my personal life. And then it just expanded into, beyond my wildest dreams. So I guess it was a fantastic opportunity for growth. For me, I think 2020 defined the fact that a knowing that I operate from, that is that we grow best from the shit. So that, the shit is the stuff that fertilizes our best growth.
Hi, I'm Jaylin and I'm from South Australia. It's interesting because it was right after really, really intense learning lessons in my life for myself as a person, and maybe areas I was trying to escape and run away from, but I couldn't go anywhere. Like a lot of us had to spend a lot of time with ourselves. So it was more me being forced to spend time with myself and get to like myself. And I'm still obviously learning that now, but it was definitely almost for me a force of, oh, well, you're stuck with yourself at the moment. You need to learn to, what do you like? What do you need to change in your life? What's your focus? So actually I look at it as it allowed me time to kind of focus on where I wanted to take my next journey. And I feel like only now am I starting to actually see that start to action and go somewhere. But yeah, I'd say around 2020 is when I took that time for myself.
My name is Rula Turgaidis, originally from Greece. I love to cook, to travel, and to do coaching work and journalistic work. That world hypnosis and psychosis could look like that. I was blown away. And it was the year that I experienced for the very first time in my life in this country, just opposite of the International Criminal Court, the injustice and the crimes of police itself. And it was really like being in a different timeline. And in the same year, I got arrested for not wearing face mask. And I kept on saying to myself what I've learned, that this Jesus figure might have said, we are in the world, but not from the world. I had to keep on repeating that to myself. It became a mantra for me. Yeah. That I was blown away. I was like, wow, that's how it looks like. I came back from Dubai in end of February. March 1st, second week of March in Holland was like, okay, you don't even talk about it. And I'm so not into this taboo stuff. We weren't even talking about it at my workplace, with some business partners, with some clients. You don't talk about it. It's all over the place, but you don't talk about it. And yeah, and people came with all kinds of stories. So it was really weird to me. And it asked a lot of me. Being a coach for the last 25 years, specialized more in people that have been traumatized, or they keep on traumatizing themselves, or they get traumatized, victimized. I had to really sharpen my my discernment. Like, this is what is going on around you. It's a shock. The whole world is in a shock, and it's in a trauma, and it's a shock to you, but do not allow to traumatize you.
Hi, my name is Jason, and I'm from Whangaroa, New Zealand. So 2020 usually means clarity and, getting clear on things. And the biggest surprise for me was how, at first when I hear that answer, my initial response is, people are so ignorant. They don't know anything, do they? But as soon as I say that, I come back to me, and the biggest surprise for me was how ignorant I was to how things really were in the world. So yeah, my own ignorance surprised me a lot that year. Big time. It's like I study holistic health and, all these alternative ways of being. And then 2020 happens, and I learned so much in that, probably learned about the same amount of learnings I've done in the past 10 years in that 1 year. And it's just, wow, that's, because when crisis come, you sort of dedicate yourself, and I dedicate a lot of my energy into learning what was going on. And it's just amazing how much I didn't know.
I hope you've enjoyed today's guests and pondering the question, what was the biggest surprise 2020 delivered for you? We would love to hear your stories, so please join us in our Telegram group chat or head to our websites, lifesource.global or janedonovan.com.au. With blessings and gratitude, have a magical day, co-creating the world we all desire to live in. You've been listening to The Park Bench with host me, Jane Donovan. To reach out to me, head to my website, janedonovan.com.au, and have a gorgeous day knowing you really are amazing.